Hello and welcome again to our series of regular monthly Maths and English updates. As England goes back into lockdown, we're going to focus on how the sector is having to react to changing circumstances, whether as a result of formal COVID restrictions or other reasons why previous assumptions might need to be revisited. As you will have seen, we're now running these sessions 3 times each month, so more people have a chance to take part in the live Q&A segment. The substantial part of these webinars will be the same across all 3 time slots, and a recorded version of that content will always be available from the Maths and English Resource Hub under this drop-down once the last live session has taken place. Thank you collectively for all of your questions. We've now collated the questions from last month and we're going to keep adding to them. Since they almost always relate to functional skills, you'll find the rolling questions on the Functional Skills Qualification Documents webpage rather than the Resource Hub, and please do keep them coming. Okay, time for this month's In Case You Missed It. Firstly, we've now published a summary guide to the formal COVID-related regulatory adaptations to each of our principal Maths and English qualifications. We went through most of these for functional skills during last month's webinar. We've also published documents for our ESOL Skills for Life qualifications, including some guidance about remote speaking and listening, as well as a document covering the bite-sized Maths and English and also employability qualifications, which is slightly confusingly labelled Skills for Life. One thing we know has caused a little uncertainty is the distinction between regulatory adaptations, where we've been able to make a formal change to the qualifications assessment requirements, versus flexibilities that already exist within the scope of what's permitted. In the case of the bite-sized qualifications and indeed employability, there aren't really any formal adaptations, since these are portfolio assessed qualifications. Where there's portfolio assessment, we don't prescribe the conditions under which evidence can be gathered and assessed, so there's no need for formal change to those requirements, but that doesn't mean you can't, as a centre, rethink how you go about this, the units you opt to deliver, how you manage the process of signing off evidence when candidates might not be in the same physical location. However, we are applying one of the formal adaptations. There is a centre intention to adapt form that needs to be completed and sent to us. You can find this on the COVID-19 web pages. Another in case you missed it. We've just restarted our series of practice sharing networks. The first wave of these is focusing particularly on functional skills, although these sessions will be much more about bring and show than the networks we ran last year in the immediate aftermath of the functional skills reforms. As you can see, the details of the sessions available and sign up details can be found on the Maths and English Resource Hub. And finally, you may have seen that we are now issuing digital credentials in addition to formal certification to each candidate who completes a functional skills qualification with us. There's more information about this on the functional skills landing page, or you can go directly to cityandguilds.com/digital-credentials. One thing we do need in order to issue these badges is candidates' email addresses, but there's instructions that explain how to provide this information. Okay, one other really important bit of news is the forthcoming upgrade to our on-screen assessment platform. The Evolve platform, many of you will be aware, currently relies on Adobe Flash, which ceases to be supported after the 31st of December 2020. As a result of this, and for other reasons, City and Guilds is taking the opportunity to upgrade to a new platform, a new version of Evolve that will allow us to provide you with a better user experience. So basically what's happening? Well, the Evolve upgrade will take place over a week-long period from 1800 hours on Tuesday the 24th of November to 23:59 on Tuesday the 1st of December 2020. Any exams and results that haven't been uploaded to the platform by that start of that upgrade period will be lost. Results will continue to be processed from Wednesday the 2nd of December onwards. So you can expect from the upgrade an enhanced screen layout to benefit administrators and invigilators. Administrators will have more control over user setups. There'll be regular improvements and bug fixes with planned updates and timely rollout, and fewer unexpected and unplanned Flash-based IT issues. Now, there are three really important actions that centres will need to complete. The first is to upload all completed exams and results onto the Evolve platform before the upgrade, so before 1800 hours, 6 o'clock PM on Tuesday, the 24th of November. Otherwise, they will be lost. You'll need to create new passwords. An email will be sent to your centre's Evolve primary and technical contacts on Wednesday, the 2nd of December. And that will outline how to reset and create new passwords for the upgraded platform. You'll also need to download and install the new Evolve Secure Client platform. Detailed instructions on the installation process will be sent a week or so before the upgrade. And also please note that Evolve Centre Analytics won't be available during the upgrade period. However, you can continue to use that service once the upgrade has been completed. It will just be out of action during that week-long upgrade. So on to the main topic of this month's session, which is a bit of a cliche, but I think it's probably where a lot of us are right now. It is pretty clear from talking to government and the regulator here in England that they're not envisaging another centre assessment grade process. As I mentioned a moment ago, we have published various bits of guidance about the adaptation arrangements. We continue to make progress with things like remote invigilation capability for functional skills. We're talking to the Association of Colleges, the AELP and other stakeholders within the sector about how to support and facilitate the delivery and assessment of maths and English over the coming months. We'll continue to do what we can, but there are also plenty of things that aren't necessarily within the gift of awarding organisations to solve. Making the assessment process more flexible will only help where learners and providers are in a position to take advantage of this, where they have been supported adequately to acquire and build confidence in the numeracy and literacy capabilities that they need to achieve the qualifications and make progress. It's pretty likely that there will be patterns of blended, disrupted, distanced learning for the foreseeable future. Our thinking as a community of educators might therefore need to change and become more fluid. We're driven towards high stakes qualifications and exam type assessment by funding, performance measures and all the rest of it. But some of those assumptions are being tested right now in ways that none of us could have anticipated even a year ago. So one thing we have been seeing lately is renewed interest in the bite-sized, unit-based maths and English qualifications that we've offered over the last few years alongside functional skills. They're a flexible, focused and personalised framework for developing and recognising numeracy and literacy capabilities. They're designed to complement more high-stakes qualifications in maths and English, such as functional skills and GCSE, but definitely not to compete with them. They provide the space for a deeper dive into specific areas of the curriculum. They can be used to help build learners' confidence, and they can support as little or as much contextualised learning as circumstances might require. These are the two main suites of bite-sized qualifications, both of which were first introduced in 2013. 3847 is the more widely known of the two suites. It's basically a collection of small units, each covering a specific area of the adult numeracy and adult literacy national standards. Each can be recognised as a qualification in its own right, but the units that provide the building blocks for this suite can also be combined into larger themed awards and certificates. The real advantage these have, especially right now, is they're portfolio assessed, so there are no externally set assignments or exams. Meanwhile, 3844 provides a one-off summative assessment delivered on screen, so quick to administer and with results available immediately, as, unlike functional skills, all of the test questions are fixed response. It does require face-to-face invigilation, so won't necessarily be suitable for all situations. Learners are assumed to have followed a thorough programme of learning before attempting the test, but it enables learners to demonstrate resilience and the security of their knowledge, as well as the ability to cope with exam type assessment, particularly on-screen testing. It's also sometimes taken by non-specialists involved in delivering maths and English as a means of demonstrating or developing their personal numeracy or literacy capabilities. These are the building blocks for maths and English within the 3847 suite. There are 55 units in total, each representing a coherent or accessible aspect of the adult numeracy standards at Entry 1, Entry 2, Entry 3, Level 1 and Level 2. The themed awards are achieved by combining together a specific area of the standards, for example number or measure, shape and space. Alternatively, there are certificates covering the whole standard. The same principle also applies to English. 45 units this time, each again representing a coherent or accessible aspect of the adult literacy standards at Entry 1, Entry 2, Entry 3, Level 1 and Level 2. It was easier in practice to make these equally sized. Likewise, there are themed awards and certificates. So this is not an exhaustive list of reasons for using these qualifications, but they might be considerations as you put together a coherent program. Imagine running right through all of this is the word progress or progression. Learners with a high stakes level 2 qualification in maths and English might still have gaps in their knowledge and understanding, and even they might benefit potentially from some focused learning and the means of having some of that recognised. So it is all about progress and progression. Now, portfolio building and assessment can be both liberating and, for those practitioners more used to exam type assessment, sometimes a little bit unnerving. It is important to plan in opportunities for candidates to meet all of what is required of them, but also not to disregard the potential for naturally occurring evidence, integration with other things they might be doing, making use of relevant contexts, as well as possibly using this as a pretext to introduce some new ones. Anyone schooled in the NVQ world will be familiar with the principles of authenticating and referencing evidence, and also with the idea that pieces of work will often hit more than one criterion or even more than one unit. The thing here is having a reliable and robust system for referencing evidence, so assessors are consistent in their practice, but are also our internal and external quality assurers, and that they in particular are able to follow and see how decisions have been arrived at. At the same time, it's important not to get carried away here. We're really not looking for pages and pages of evidence, although each criterion normally does need to be met on at least 2 occasions. This really shouldn't be too much of an ask if the candidate is operating at this level, and we're also not expecting evidence to be produced under exam conditions, as long as the assessor is confident about its authenticity. As an extra resource to help this process, we've produced a set of work packs to support the generation of evidence and to illustrate ways in which this can be done holistically. They're not compulsory and they can be adapted as you wish. Now, having talked up these qualifications, let's also be absolutely clear about what they're not intended to be. They were never intended to be an alternative or an equivalent to functional skills or GCSE. It's better to see them as a framework that supports the development of maths and English, which could include supporting learners on a journey towards achieving a high stakes qualification such as functional skills. Another misconception we regularly hear is that they're only really intended for SEND learners. Now, that might be one possible use for them, but it's certainly not the only one, and this suite does include level 2 units and qualifications. We'll touch on the funding rules for these qualifications in a moment, but it's also not helpful to approach this from a standpoint of seeing this as a clever ruse to access more funding. The Education and Skills Funding Agency will, for example, want there to be a clear justification for using these qualifications rather than a more high stakes outcome. There'll be plenty of situations where that's perfectly possible, but the key driver here should always be learner progression. And the final point is a similar one. There's no point using these qualifications just simply for their own sake. The whole point is to support, encourage and recognise learners' achievements. We set out the funding situation more fully in our Maths and English funding guidance documents. There are some quirks to the funding arrangements, so it is really important to understand these fully. For example, where individual units can be funded for adult learners. Similarly, within study programs for 16 to 18-year-olds, there are certain qualifications within this suite that can be counted directly towards the condition of funding. However, just to be clear, Not counting towards the condition of funding doesn't mean that these qualifications can't be used. In practice, learners on a full-time programme are likely to be on a trajectory towards either functional skills or GCSE, or indeed an ESOL qualification where that's appropriate. As long as the learner has been enrolled for one of these high-stakes qualifications during the same year, then the condition of funding will have been met. We're going to look at funding arrangements, not just for these qualifications, more closely in a future webinar, so do look out for this. Okay, it's time to draw a line under this session. Please note the live slots next month will be a week earlier than usual. We're conscious that the 3rd and 4th weeks of December probably aren't a great time to hold live webinars. Thanks again for joining. Bye for now.